becoming a true leader is being able to believe in yourself, and demonstrating the leadership of belief in yourself also ultimately can help be instilled into others. So I think part of being a true leader is helping others recognize their value and believing in themselves to be a leader as well. A lot of people that are willing to put themselves out there as a leader sometimes have to take a moment of authenticity and be vulnerable in that moment. Regardless of the expectations that's set of you, I think people feel more related to a leader when they have some vulnerability.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Jessy James, and today's guest is Chelsea Starley. Chelsea Starley is Vice President of Sales for Business Information at Kofas, where she helps global credit professionals predict and prevent risk. With a career spanning broadcast, advertising, pharmaceutical, cybersecurity, and SaaS data sales, Chelsea brings a unique human-centered approach to complex business challenges. Passionate about problem solving and driven by a genuine desire to help, she partners with organizations to improve financial performance through high-quality data, global insights, and expert risk analysis. From pre-screening clients to monitoring buyer uncertainty, Chelsea connects people to solutions that save time, money, and effort while strengthening smarter credit decisions. Chelsea, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessy. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. Chelsea, I'm curious, who is someone from your early life or even an early experience that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
I love this question because when I was really thinking about this of, who as a kid did I really look up to from a younger age? And I thought about this heavily because I think naturally we would always pick our parents, but I truly believe when I'm picking someone, my father is really the person that I would say shaped my idea of the kind of leader I would like to be. I had the pleasure of going to work with my dad sometimes, and my dad was, he was a hard worker. He was a construction guy, used his hands, and he happened to meet someone on an airplane who got him into the banking industry to where he elevated his career up into the mortgage industry. He was a very well-known man, but as top of a CEO of a company, I would come in to work with my dad, and I would take those rides to work, and I would hear him listening to the radio and preparing for his day. And I could see the thoughts spinning of him preparing for everything he was going to have on his plate. And then he would get to work and he would say hi from anyone from helping at the elevator to everyone. He knew everyone's name. He knew the entire building. And people really valued him. And he was one of those people that never really met a stranger. He was super hardworking, but he also was just someone that you could feel comfortable in going to and asking for help, but also someone who would mentor you. And that was something I remember taking note of you know what, this is something I want to be too. I want to resemble someone who feels comfortable to go to me as a leader. And also, whether that be, the person I greet in the door or someone that I meet with at a boardroom table. So it was definitely something that instilled in me from a close age. And I still sometimes think as I'm preparing for my day and I have a young child and I think about the influence I might have on her thoughts about being a leader one day and how she can influence that. I try to set that example as well.
What does true leadership mean to you? What, from your perspective, makes a true leader?
So I think the first part of becoming a true leader is being able to believe in yourself. And demonstrating the leadership of belief in yourself also ultimately can help be instilled into others, right? So I think part of being a true leader is helping others recognize their value and believing in themselves to be a leader as well. I think it requires a lot of vulnerability. A lot of people that are willing to put themselves out there as a leader sometimes have to take a moment of authenticity, and be vulnerable in that moment. And regardless of the expectations of set of you, I think people feel more related to a leader when they have some vulnerability. So I think that is really a heavy quality that comes to a leadership. And then how do you motivate folks around you? Whether it be, again, someone on a personal level, and you can motivate them in a positive way, or how can you come in and uplift? I think about this not on just a personal level or a professional level and what I do every single day, but even just the people who lead us on our everyday as a country, and who lead us in our churches, and whoever lead us in these roles. They have to bring us to hope when we feel like we have none left. And we have struggles in our day to day. And I think anyone that can instill hope into others and a positive motivation is also a true leader.
Can you share about a time when you realized that your way of leading or living no longer met the demands of your work and life and growth was needed?
This is a good question. There's always growth needed every single day. There's an opportunity to grow. I think that we can get stagnant in our ways of leading and the things that are happening in our everyday life. Part of me having the experience and changing different types of industries and different types of roles has given me the ability to be more agile, and being able to adapt and understand. And also, I think, have a moment to self reflect and say, okay, what's worked in this role? What do I need to improve upon myself, and strengthen within myself for the new demands of this role? So it's been a lot of self-reflection, but then also admitting to what I do and do not know. And in that moment, what can I do to educate myself to be stronger in that space, and continue to learn and grow? But sometimes it's not about reading a book. Sometimes it's about self-reflection. And I think that's something I don't always take the time or make the time for. I just hope that there'll be a magic book that'll tell me, or a podcast that someone could just instill that motivation for me. And it's not always that simple, right? So sometimes it's taking a moment and pausing and say, what's the result I'm looking for? And what do I need to change? Is it a messaging? Is it a way of how I set boundaries? Is it a way of what I do on a daily basis? Is it whom I'm delegating, whom I'm entrusting, to help me get to that goal? And so it's just a matter of reflection, and sometimes it's having those hard questions with yourself.
Yeah, and what stood out there that I related to, Chelsea, is that sometimes we can go through a variety of experiences, industries, companies, but we're almost kind of like bringing the same thing to these companies, right? But it's that reflection, that insight, that constantly asking yourself and motivating yourself that allows for change and agility to come in, so that that one is really learning from each experience as well. So thank you for sharing that. Um, you know, Thinking about your journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself for your own growth?
Yes, this has been something I think, if I can say investment, I mean, I think we think investment, that it means financially. How have we invested in ourselves? I think that there's two ways to answer this. So there's the ways that I've invested actually financially. In fact, have done leadership programs. I've been a part of a coaching platform to be able to learn a little bit more from others. I tend to find that my own colleagues are kinder. Um, they're not as willing to give me constructive feedback. I find most people always want to tell me the positive things, which I appreciate. I'm a words of affirmation person, so I do love that. But I find outside mentors, from my day-to-day job, or from even in my industry, finding three strong mentors, whether it's I'm paying someone to mentor me, or it's someone that I value their feedback that comes from a total different background of experience and knowledge and expertise. So I've found three really strong mentors. And then I also spend a lot of time. I'm pretty passionate about human behavior, and there's a program called Enneagram that I really found beneficial for me from an inward analysis, trying to understand myself a little bit better, what motivates me, what provides purpose for me, and understanding the other types of personalities that fall under that Enneagram and how to work better with them. So I think, being able to be a better leader is better understanding that there are different types of people. There's the way I work with people, the way I communicate, and the type of information and the ways I need to take in that information. But there's so many other versions of that. And so better understanding how I can lead people outside of the way I would feel that I needed to be led, and communicate. And that doesn't go just in work. That's a very personal analysis as well. And then I think therapy is also something that has really helped me, and not just personal. It's very, for me, professional. It's really helped me understand the things that I'm not as good at. I'm not great at delegating and setting boundaries. And so therapy has helped me with that, both personally and professionally. We spend so much of our time at work doing something that we hopefully love. It's a big part of who we are and shapes our strengths and weaknesses. And I think that that's a big investment for me to make sure that I'm enhancing my capabilities, and furthermore, inwardly improving myself so I can outwardly be a stronger leader.
And Chelsea, I'm curious, you're constantly investing in yourself, you're constantly learning. What difference has that really made in your leadership and in your life?
Yeah, so I think the investments to it have created more purpose for me. I'm more intentional in what I'm doing. Sometimes I think we are all guilty of just this hamster wheel. The hours turn into, the minutes turn into hours turn into days turns into month. And sometimes it's, I had this intention to be this or do this thing, but 6 months just happened because I was running on the hamster wheel. And so sometimes we have to take the time. Time is a big investment that we don't all have. It's a commodity that we can't seem to get enough of. So taking the time and taking sometimes the financial investment that it requires to do the things that you need to do to invest in your ability to lead, I think really has impacted me because it's allowed me to be more intentional in what I'm doing, have something to work towards, and then just continue to always challenge myself and improve the ways that I can show up as a human for this earth in any capacity.
What's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
Yeah, so I always think about that. What's my superpower, and how can I take my superpower and help others? And as you mentioned in my introduction, my purpose feels like it's all about how can I help others. And so I tend to get a lot of feedback that one of my superpowers is my positivity. I tend to have a really good positive attitude, positive outlook. I'm always bright and shiny and bubbly. And I know that's not easy for everyone to wake up like that. And it's not a superpower that others might have. And so I really want to help radiate positivity into people's life. But I also think a lot of people are really afraid in this day and age to be vulnerable and authentic. They might be afraid of what that means, right? Of the risk that might take, the failure that might come with that vulnerability and authenticity, the judgments that might come from that. And so people just don't do it. They live in this box. And I've never really been in the box. There's the box and Chelsea's not really in it, right? And so, I always used to think that was something that one made me different and maybe not in a positive way. But I have learned through all of the reflection that is a positive thing that I can help others grow into. And so I really want to help that. I want to, by example, lead by example with my positive attitude, my vulnerability, but then also taking those risks and admitting to what I learned from that risk. Because I don't always think that failure means that it was a failure. It just means that you've taken that learning opportunity. And I really do believe that everything happens on purpose. So I just really want to instill that into others.
And Chelsea, I'm curious, given that positivity is something that that, is a legacy that you want to leave behind. That's how you want to sort of almost impact the world, right? What are the ways that you, having explored this so much already, what are the ways that you feel you need to still grow personally or professionally to sort of realize that vision?
Yeah, I can talk a good talk, but I definitely have my weaknesses, right? So this is a good question because, like, yeah, no big deal. You just have to believe in yourself. You just have to like set boundaries and you just, help delegate to people so you can show up in the way that you need to show up. Those are the things I'm not great at. I'm a doer. I don't do well asking others for help because I want to help. So I'm not great at delegating. I need to be a better delegator because if I can't, as one human, do all of the things. I need to set better boundaries. I'm a yes person. Can't say yes to everything. You have to be able to say no to some things and be able to know where your value lies and taking that time to put into where your strengths are and what you're expected to do. So I have to be better about boundaries for myself. But that self-doubt, I couldn't speak to that anymore. As much as I continue to invest in myself and I know my strengths, I still have imposter syndrome every day. I keep waking up thinking, okay, certainly by now I've been in this industry. I've been working for so long. I've been in sales for so long. Certainly by now I'll believe I have a seat at the table. I won't feel like an imposter sitting here. That imposter syndrome is my biggest area of opportunity to grow, because it does get in my way and it prevents me from taking even more risks than I think I would take if I felt a little bit more confident and less imposter like in the situation. So those are the areas I'm actively trying to improve.
And Chelsea, where do you feel most tested right now? Like, what challenges that you're facing are really stretching you the most in leadership and in life?
The biggest challenge for me has been recognizing I'm a leader. I used to think that it meant I had to be a manager. I had to manage people underneath of me, and that was the only way I could be looked at as a leader. And so I discounted myself. And so many people would say, "No, you're a leader. You're a leader. You're a natural born leader." And so, I think for me, it's been a matter of, I need to really believe that. I need to believe that I have that value, and that's the biggest thing I think for me to focus on.
Got it. Um, so this last question is more of an invitation. You have this time and space here to offer to our listeners whatever it is that's top of the mind for you. Just straight from your heart, just share anything at all. The floor is yours.
This is a man. I'm chatty, so this is a brave question to bring up because I could talk all day. But what I will say, I want to I want to encourage everyone to take an extra second in their day to engage with a human. It's not that scary. Some people are not nice, but most people are. I think humans are our ultimate, everything, our companionship, our partnership. We work with them all day long. And I'll share this because I talk about this with a lot of people. So if you know me, you probably would know that I talk about this, but there are two types of people on an airplane. There's the headphone people that you don't want to engage with. And then there's me, that if you and I make contact, we are definitely talking the entire flight. I purposefully will choose the middle seat because if this one won't talk to me, maybe this one will. And it's not because I'm trying to sell them something. It's because I think that the world put us together and it's the most spontaneous moment to engage with someone that I would never have crossed paths with, that there's got to be a reason why. And I need to find out in the next 3 hours or however long you're lucky to be sitting next to me. Why did we find each other? And so I think it's just a reminder of you just never know whom you can talk to, whom you can meet, what you can learn from them, how you can take that back into your everyday, how you can tell that story to motivate someone else. And I really want to encourage people to engage in the days of our phones constantly in front of our face and scrolling all of the social medias and video outlets. you worry about the younger generations when you see them get in a circle with their friends and they're Snapchatting each other and they don't even know how to talk to the person in front of them because they are reliant on that device. And so I just really want to make sure that I spread that message, because I think we lose those opportunities to connect with humans, and there's so much we can gain in life from that. So that's one thing I wanted to really talk about, because the next time you're on a plane, you might find someone that you want to talk to and you might learn something great from them. So I encourage it. Those, I do understand sometimes people are like, this is my only 2 hours I ever get in my life to myself, so leave me alone, so I get that too. But that's what I would say, is just take that extra moment, engage with the human. How can you change their day in a positive way?
I love that, because you're right. Every time I have sat, or many times when I've sat in the middle seat, I've gotten to have some amazing conversations, right? Both on the left and the right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, watch out for the middle seat, right?
Yeah, exactly. More middle seats, because then you increase your odds. There's someone will talk to you.
Right. Do that.
Yeah.
Well, Chelsea, it's been wonderful talking to you and learning. I just learned so much from you, and I'm sure our listeners are going to get a heck of a lot from this conversation. So thank you once again. And, thank you for being on the True Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Jessy. It was a pleasure to be here. Have a great day.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.